Welcome back, everybody. The History Guy here, ready to dive into the Siege of Jackson and then the Battle of Chickamauga, at which point we will be caught up with this reboot of my legendary campaign on the Confederate side of Ultimate General Civil War. Going to be heavily outnumbered here, 46,800 to 27,600. He's also got almost 3 times as many guns as I do. However, I should be okay. Strong defensive position that you get to start out with in this battle. It's really just kind of a matter of deciding where you want to place everybody to start. So I'll go ahead and get my troops into position for defense, and we'll see how this thing goes. Alright, so here's the situation. There's 2 hours and 40 minutes to go. I've gotten my defensive line set up the way I want it. I tend to try to focus on the center and on my right of this horseshoe because that tends to be where he attacks from. He'll do some feints over here on my left on the eastern side, but for the most part he won't really hit me hard there. But I'll keep everybody just kind of covering those areas just in case. My reinforcements have already arrived, so he's got a while before he gets all of his troops into position. It looks like he's got most of them now, all 154 guns, and he's going to do this whole ride right through the middle of my line thing again. I think he did this last time I played this battle, which just drove me nuts, because then I've got to go hunting him down so he doesn't hit all my artillery. I really don't understand why it allows that to happen on this game, but it's one of those little quirks of the game that just kind of is a pain in the butt. So I'll send some skirmishers to go deal with all of that. I won't get hit too much over here on my extreme right anyway. But all those skirmishers should be enough to just kind of keep him driven off. In the meantime, I'm going to drop these skirmishers out and put Rice in these fortifications. And then we'll wait for the main assault to happen, which usually happens in the south, but I guess it's going to depend on what he sees. So it looks like his first main assault's going to happen here on my right. He's going to hit the Snakefoot Brigade. But in every place that I've got somebody in fortifications, I've got at least 1 or 2 brigades to support them for just such an eventuality. So we're prepared for this, and we'll be able to drive Lee off with little difficulty, I think. Same thing down here. Got one long fortification that just is not one of my favorite ways to do things, but I'll keep them in that front line, and then I'll keep multiple brigades to support them. He's got a few sitting out over here, but they're not really going to do anything. So far, with about 2 hours to go, even though he outnumbers me pretty substantially, he's lost about 1,400 men to my 400 so far. So I'll just kind of sit back and keep hitting him. Checking in here with 1 hour and 14 to go, and really no major threats to my line anywhere. He's coming at me over on the right more than anywhere right now, and he found a weakness there at Pickett, so he's gonna launch a melee attack on Pickett. But I've got Jackson on Pickett's left, and I've got skirmishers on Pickett's right, and between those two, that should be enough protection to make up for the lack of men that Pickett may have right there. He never does coordinate his attacks very well, because he should be hitting me hard on the south right now while he's doing that, but he won't. However, this does help him a little bit, that he's hitting Snakefoot Brigade with a bunch of infantry while Jackson was occupied and couldn't help out. So I'm going to actually have to send a couple of, or at least 1 unit up here for support. And bring some skirmishers down as well, because now they're going to hit Bidwell, and he's probably going to get driven off too. So it's interesting that he's kind of making his main attack over on my right. That doesn't typically happen. But we'll get this stabilized, and we'll drive these guys off, and everything will be fine. I'm going to send my general over there as well. everything is now stabilized over on my right, and looking at the numbers right now, he has lost about 4,700, 4,600 men. I've lost right around 2,000. So if this allows me to let this one go, I may let it go for a while, just because the longer it goes, I think it can only be better for me as far as the losses that I incur, or that I put on him. So we'll see what happens, and if it runs out right at the timer, we'll come back. If not, we'll kind of follow it for a little while longer. So it does look like it's going to let this one continue for at least a little while. On one hand, I'm a little nervous about it because he has been inflicting some pretty heavy losses on me up here on my right, but on the other hand, the losses still seem to be mostly in my favor. But just out of the fact that I tend to live with an abundance of caution on this game, I'm going to let that be it for now. So as you can see, he had me by a good 16,000 men on the field. More than that when you count all his artillery, so probably closer to 20,000. And losses about almost 7,000 on his side, about 3,600, so about half for me. Grabbed a bunch more 1861s. Those are always nice to have. So now we look at the situation going back into Chickamauga. First things first, I have 82 in reputation, so I'm going to have to spend some of those just because otherwise I think I'll probably max out. I'm going to go ahead and just start going with logistics a little bit, just because I like to have that little bit of extra ammunition. But 121 to 126, so he actually took a big bump up in terms of his manpower going into Chickamauga this time, but still a good 80,000, 90,000 below what it was before. So we're going to have to compare once we get through the initial phases of Chickamauga and see what the army looks like. But again, I'm going to save my reinforcements and not put them in until after this first phase of the battle, just so I can keep the scaling from being insane. So that gives me about 15, almost 16,000 men to add to the 31,000 that I have now. So I'll have about 47,000 available to me. Now I could pick up another 4 here, and that's probably how I'll spend these points, because I've got so much money that really it makes more sense to get the additional 4,000 men than it does to pick up these other things. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That gives me almost 20,000 reinforcements available. So I'm going to have to do some thinking to make sure that I make the most out of these reinforcements, because it's all going to depend on what guns are available, things like that. So I've got to sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, start writing down what kind of guns I have and how many I have available, to make sure that I've got a variety of weapons that's going to allow me to reinforce as many of these 19,000, almost 20,000 men as possible. So I'll go back, kind of look at some things, and we'll get ready for the Battle of Chickamauga. Alright, so this is what Chickamauga looks like going into the first day. It's always kind of hard to tell what it's going to look like afterward, but I think I've got myself in as good a position as I possibly can going into this battle. So we'll see how it all works out. I'm going to have 35,000 men against his 15 on the first day. But the first day is really just a precursor to the main battle itself, so we're going to go ahead and take care of business here and then get refit for the main battle. Okay, so this is what Chickamauga, the main part of the battle, is going to look like this time around. Much more favorable situation. I was outnumbered by 20,000 men going into September 19th in my last playthrough. This time it's just about 6,500, and not only that, I have more guns on the field, and the best part of all is that I'm much better equipped. These are all weapons that are really, really good. I think I only have maybe 2 units that even have Springfield 1842s. Everybody else has something better than that. So I think that's going to make a big difference, and I'm hoping within a pretty short time I should even the odds and maybe even end up outnumbering him. So we'll play a pretty conservative strategy early on, but the main thing is I have to make sure that I hold this objective here. I'll sit back here and let him come to me, but I can't wait until the last second to try and take that like I did last time, because at that point it just becomes a bloodbath. So I'm going to get myself in a position and ready to go. and we'll come and go as conditions warrant. So my plan is what it usually is for this battle, which is to sit back in the strongest defensive position, let him come at me, inflict a lot of casualties, and only then advance and take the objectives. I've toyed with the idea of holding strong at the objective so that he doesn't, because I know he's going to bunch up all his troops right here. But I feel like if I do what I'm supposed to do, as close as the gap is as far as him only outnumbering me by 7,000 this time as opposed to 20,000 last time, I feel like I should be at an advantage numerically by the time I advance to take the objectives if I sit back and play defensively. So we'll see what happens, but that's kind of the goal, the plan right now. All right, we're on to the next phase of the battle, and we're just now making contact with the enemy. I'm actually going to pull these skirmishers back. I'm going to try to get out on his flank as much as I possibly can. And then I should be getting some more reinforcements before too long. And I'm just going to hope that he comes in range of me, and I'm going to have to make sure I keep everybody nice and supplied the entire battle. Here comes the next set of reinforcements. Looks like it's just one brigade. I'm just now starting to see the enemy. Okay, there's more coming. Over on the right side. Actually, I think the 4 brigades that are over there are probably going to be enough. So I'll keep these skirmishers out here just as a way of flanking the enemy, but I think right now the firepower I'm bringing to bear on him is doing the job all by itself. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I'm out here trying to disrupt what he's doing. Obviously I'm going to take some casualties in doing so, but I'm trying to especially disrupt his battery. And it seems to be working fairly well. Plenty of reinforcements. Oh, back up, Paige. What are you doing? No. Oh, good. We routed him. Alright, let's get these guys out of here. And then over here, same thing. He's coming in. He's probing. He took the objective, but now he's being driven off. So, numbers-wise, for the battle now, he's at about 3,500 lost. But everything seems to be going pretty well. I'm going to bring it over the supplies just to get these guys resupplied, because they've been doing most of the firing so far. So interesting, he's actually coming over and trying to hit me over here where I've got this one brigade kind of hanging out by itself. So I'm going to send the Snakefoot Brigade over here to support them, and then bring Hatch over this way as well. But we're about to enter the next phase where I think the rest of the battlefield is going to open up. Yep. So now comes the great shift. I'm going to start shifting everybody up to the north, try to consolidate my forces, and give myself the best chance to win. I'm going to bring all these guys up. So he's backed off the attacks on both of my fronts here. Unfortunately, these guns, while they've done their job quite well, they're starting to lose some steam. They've lost 4 of their guns now, so I'm going to back them up a little bit. They're pretty close to the front line. But numbers-wise, he's lost, well, about 7,000 men now. And for me, I've lost about just over 1,000 of my number. So obviously I refit, so this doesn't really count the total number of losses I've suffered during the battle. But if we figure that he had a 7,000 man advantage at this point going into today, the fact that I have cut that by about 5,000 means our numbers are already almost even. And if I can consolidate some of my forces, I should actually give myself an advantage. So we're going to get everybody into position here. I'm going to go ahead and march on, I think this is Brotherton Cabin here. Then there's Kelly's Field up there. So this is Vineyard Field. That's the place I'm going to head for first. Once I get all these forces in position, it just takes a little while to do that. And then we're just going to keep holding these guys off. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and send a brigade of infantry over that way. I'll start sending these 3 brigades up. Swing this one around. And we'll start the advance. Alright, we're going to start making contact with the enemy now. He's going to have his strong position here with quite a bit of infantry and some artillery, which hopefully I can drive off pretty quickly. A couple of volleys ought to do the trick before I take too much canister fire. Just cover my flank out here. I've also started my advance toward Vineyard Field. I got a ton of artillery down here. It's just kind of the way things worked out with the breakdown of my troops. So I'm going to have to do a lot of leapfrogging to make sure that my artillery stays close enough to be effective. But of course, as always, this is where he's got his big kind of buildup right here in these trees, and it's going to take some doing to drive him out of there. And this will be where most of my casualties end up happening. If I can get around him, that should be effective. And just keep replacing routed units with ones that have reformed. But this is always the hornet's nest, so to speak, in this one. All of these men all in one spot. Just a lot of firepower to overcome. Alright, so I grabbed those supplies that were just kind of sitting out there staring at me. So I'll get those over to help resupply my units, and hopefully that hurts him as this battle progresses. This guy of his just broke to right in front of where my guns are. But that's going to become a problem when he keeps breaking further and further in the middle of my lines. But I'm getting around him enough now. Oh man, I'm taking a lot of artillery fire from on Page. But the good news is he's in the woods and it doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. If I can start driving off these guns, I'll be okay. I gotta get these guys resupplied quickly. I brought over Nicholas to help out. That seems to be helping, and now I'm continuing to drive on the objective down here. That seems to be just about in hand. But numbers wise, at this point now, I've lost, 3,400 men and 5 guns. I've taken out 50 of his guns. That's fully a third of his artillery. And he's lost 9,000 men. So I've definitely cut that gap, even with the losses that I'm taking trying to attack this. I'm just going to call it the Hornet's Nest because that's basically what it is. It's no different than the one that was at Shiloh. I'm going to send these skirmishers up here to try and help deal with these guys. Okay, now that they're routed, I can bring Pickett over this way. Get these guns up close, get them supplied. Make sure I can keep these supplies over here now. This is going to be a bit of an issue because he's got more men on that objective than I'm used to him having. Page is just taking it on the chin from all this artillery. Alright, this objective is going to fall pretty easily. Now we just got to start moving up. Be careful here because there's some skirmishers watching me. Well, it's really just kind of a numbers game for me here. I'm taking the casualties big time, but eventually he's going to run out of men to defend with, because I'm causing enough casualties that he just won't be able to hold it forever, especially once his guns are taken out. Alright, he's starting to break now. Starting to push him back from this objective finally. Now I've got to deal with this one, because it's going to be pretty heavily defended as well. And I don't think I have to have it yet at the end of this particular point, but I'm going to go ahead and push toward it anyhow. And this might get a little tricky because he's going to have the numbers on me here. I'm going to stay at least in a little bit of cover. So we've pushed through, we've got that objective. I'm going to try to come over here with some cavalry. This guy's roaming around in the woods behind me. And we've successfully just about completely driven him out of the woods now. So now it's my turn to park my guns on the objective. And now I'll have the better of the position. So I'm going to pause again because there's a lot of pausing you have to do on this one to kind of manage the different aspects of the battlefield. So we're on to the last phase, the last 4 hours of the first day, and the situation is this. I have taken these two objectives on my right. I have to take this one, and this one, which I have. So I've got to take these last two in the next 4 hours, and I win the battle. Now, I don't think that's going to be an issue, but Chickamauga is one of those battles that can completely surprise you because there's just so many ways that the enemy can just show up out of nowhere where you least expect him to be. So I've got to be cautious. I've got to make sure that I've got enough men at each one of these, what really are just practically separate battles because of the way the battlefield works out. And it just could be, at any point, he could surprise me somewhere and make part of the battle very difficult. So not counting my chickens before they're hatched, but I also feel a lot better about my chances than I did last time. I got to get these skirmishers out of here before they completely break. And I know he's got a unit back here somewhere just waiting to show up and surprise me, but I can't keep chasing him. I'll just deal with him when he comes along. So we're going to keep pushing here. I'm going to try to build this into a bulge out that way that allows me to push toward the objective from that side, all the while having to make sure that I leave somebody back to defend this objective against rogue units that surprise me somewhere out of the woods. I'm going to send the Snakefoot Brigade over to help over here because I think I'm probably going to need them before it's all said and done. And then this cavalry, there's probably something I can do with them if I can just get back here far enough behind the lines and find an isolated unit to go after. But then I need to start turning northward with these brigades as well. Alright, we drove off Carlin, and my cavalry's going to deal with Hague. And that's going to allow me to start driving north. I'm going to have to probably keep Ransom back here, just because I've got to keep at least one unit to guard that objective. As I start to turn north, I've got plenty of time to get this done. Still 3.5 hours to go. I feel like I'm in a good, strong position everywhere. This is about my weakest position, but what I've done is I've backed off a little bit. I've sent Snakefoot Brigade over to help, and now I think I'm in good shape there as well. So once we continue to drive these guys back, we get a good, strong defensive battle line here. I think I'll be in good shape just about everywhere. Alright, we're getting dragged into the woods where the cavalry's going to lose their effectiveness. So I'm going to have to pull them out now that they've routed him. Alright. We'll send some of these guns up, but it's going to be hard to keep them moving enough to really be effective. But I think I'm gonna have this battle. I think it's in the bag, but we'll see. Nothing is for sure. Numbers wise, he's only outnumbered me by about 2,000 men now. So the best part is I've taken out 2/3 of his guns at the loss of only 7 of my own. So that's really helpful. I just need to stay in good supply, which I took some of his supplies, so hopefully that becomes an issue for him. And we're starting to close some of these gaps in the line as I move north. .248 to go, pushing him all the way along the line. It's going pretty well. I think I'm going to bring my cavalry over because I might see an open opportunity up here at this next objective. But there's only just not very many men holding these last couple of objectives now. A little weak over here on this side. Naylor's not going to be necessarily able to hold, but some of his units are going to start disappearing off the battlefield here before too long because they've gotten so low in numbers. This is the advantage to having brought down his numbers to the point where he only outnumbered me by 7,000 men, but then coming into the battle with more experienced and better equipped troops than I did last time, and I'm really seeing that difference on the battlefield, where when I go toe-to-toe with one of his units, I'm not outgunned and outmanned anymore where I was before. So his advantage is now less than 1,000 men on the field. So another 20 minutes or so and I should see that I finally have a numerical advantage. Supply is really the only issue that I'm going to run into. Even though I captured some of his supplies, I still think by the time it's all said and done, I'm probably going to start seeing a lot of units without enough ammo, simply because of how long they've been firing and engaged. And that's okay. That just reflects the fact that I don't have much in the way of logistics points invested. But you can start to see he's going to start having the same issue. So I'm going to go ahead and hit these guys in the open. I just got to be careful because they've got a brigade right behind them. So I'm going to take some volleys here. In fact, yeah, I'm kind of thinking better of that decision. I'm still a little too reckless with my cavalry. Especially at a battle like this, there just really aren't going to be that many opportunities. And I should accept that. Okay, Naylor got driven back. I kind of expected he would. But now he's just got about 100 more men than I do. We're about to press forward to the next objective, and then it'll just be one more, and I've got 2 hours to do it, so shouldn't be any issues with taking that last objective. Looks like that unit completely dissolved now. Well, like I said, it can get a little tricky sometimes, and in this case, what got tricky was he's just had these couple of units out here that I didn't realize were still there, and they came in and surprised me, and I had to turn to face them, which then left my flank open a little bit and caused a couple of my units to break, at least temporarily. But I've driven him off, I'm taking the objective, and I'm pressing forward. And now I'm going to get some of my cavalry out here into the open to where hopefully they can pursue some of these units and deal with them. But you can see they just appear out of nowhere sometimes. And he's got a bunch of mounted infantry units just kind of roaming around over here. So I'm actually going to send my cavalry back even further to where they can surprise him for a change. And I've got to just get my infantry kind of reformed to build up my line again. Meanwhile, up here, it's really just a matter of pressing through. I've got him at a pretty significant numerical disadvantage. And just kind of pause and look over here. This one's pretty much over as well. So I've actually got him now by about 2,000 men in terms of the numbers. So that's if you figure he had 7,000 more than me to start, that's about a 9,000 point or a 9,000 man difference in casualties. And it'll be more than that by the time this thing's said and done. I just got to be careful of the time now. Make sure I don't wait too long to push through to these last objectives. Got an ammo issue here, so I'm going to have to come up and get them resupplied. I'm running into a little bit of an issue now, but I've taken the objective, so I just got to push him out enough to where I can get a good defensive position. This is the one I've got to push through to, but that won't be an issue. I've got an hour and 20 minutes to do that. 56 minutes to go now. My advantage is now up to 2,600 men. I've just got to push through, take Kelly's Field. That's the last remaining objective that stands between me and victory. We're driving these guys out, finally. Getting myself into a decent position where I can just kind of stand and fire. And I just got to hold at these other objectives and take Kelly's Field in the next 50 minutes. And we're just about there. Another one of his units just shattered. These last couple are about to do the same thing. These guys not doing so well, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. Alright, that unit just shattered. We're going to go ahead and advance on the objective. Really very little happening over here. It looks like he's going to make one last attempt at this. I'll advance my troops up into that position when the timer gets near 0, just to make sure he doesn't rush in at the last second and take it. Alright, now I'm actually at over 4,000 man advantage now, and he's down to just 14 guns. So he just really has very little left to fight with. I think now's my opportunity here. Now one of these guys is going to take a volley. Perfect. So both of those units should be dealt with. I'm actually going to run up here and grab these supplies. We've got 35 minutes. Dodge is going to disappear in a minute, and then it'll just be an open walk to the objective. Alright, let's pull the cavalry out. Alright, Dodge is gone. The objective is mine. And now I just got to sit on all of these objectives. Make sure he doesn't take them back. And the battle's over. Well, no sooner had I spoken that than here comes a rogue brigade or two that are going to go and try and take those objectives from me, as always happens with this battle. So we're going to go deal with that. And I should be able to hit him before he can turn and get a volley into me. We'll pull these guys back, and we're just going to come back and park on that objective. Make sure he doesn't take it back. And at that point, all should be well with the world. All right, here it comes. Come on, Mr. Timer, you're at 0. There it is. Okay, so final numbers: 2-1 casualties. He lost 30,000 men here at Chickamauga. Actually, more than that, because 764 missing, 938 cavalry, 108 guns. So we're actually looking at about 34,000 men. About 16 for me. Please tell me I grabbed a whole bunch of weapons. Yeah, 2,700 of these Springfield 1861s, 8,000 supplies. A good day, a real good day. So the main question is now, as we get into 1864, where every battle is a major battle, what does the situation look like moving forward? So with that said, I'm going to start going into logistics so I can get a little bit more ammunition going. He lost 30,000 men. He didn't quite replace that many, so his force pool is still over 100,000, but now we get into these not so minor battles like Laurel Hill, Saunders Farm, Mansfield. But we are caught up with the reboot, which means now moving forward we are going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming, which will be to just go ahead and play through an individual battle in each episode. And I believe we will be starting with Mansfield. Now, it's been a long time since I fought any of these battles, so I'm going to go back and kind of study what happened in the past and what I did in each of these battles. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to take more than 20 brigades because of the way things are broken down. And I think at some point I probably should have put points into Army organization to get myself up to full 25 brigades that I can take into these battles. I'll be curious to see, too, how scaling goes down with this one. But that's for another day. As always, I thank you for sticking with me. Thanks for following along as I did this. We are now caught up. We can go back to what we were doing before. I will be back with you most likely from my new office. We're getting the internet installed on Thursday, so I'll be able to start doing videos there. As always, I welcome your comments, your questions, your criticisms, any and all of those things. Use the comment section below. Hit that thumbs up if you want to see more. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching, guys.